This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation. All Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's take a live look at Bitcoin. Bam! $54,680. Bitcoin is shooting up to the moon, up 8%, almost 8% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the Coindesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Bitcoin surging to a 5-month price high over $54,000 as bulls take over the Bitcoin market. Someone or ones bought up $1.6 billion worth of BTC via market orders in just 5 minutes, according to Ki Young Ju, CEO of crypto analytics firm CryptoQuant. Ju tweeting out this chart showing some big exchange purchasing volume on the represented in purple there, coinciding with Bitcoin's skyrocketing price in gray. Ju also tweeting out another chart on short liquidations and continues that, quote, short liquidations seem relatively smaller, like 17 million at that time. This is more like whale buying, not cascade liquidations. So who's this Bitcoin buying whale or whales? Well, crypto broker VQuant suggesting strong institutional interest is at play, saying, quote, probably due to better signaling from regulators. Head of research Martha Reyes pointing out that CME activity, where futures spreads are recovering nicely and open interest is up. Crypto trading bot Crypto Hopper also adding that it could be, quote, partly due to the market cycle that we're in, where the emotional part plays a significant role. Therefore, news like the Bank of America announcing its crypto research has had a dramatic knock-on effect on market sentiment. Joining us now to discuss is Coindesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Hey there, Galen. So is it a whale or whales that are buying Bitcoin? What do you think? Who done it?
Certainly the first chart you showed there from CryptoQuant seems to indicate.
Galen, I can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Never mind.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you, but everyone else can.
But everybody else can. Oh, good. Well, I guess I
can hear you now.
Very good. I'll forge on. Yeah, I think, I think a pretty compelling case there that this is a spot market driven rally this morning. Often you see this sort of cascading liquidations refers to the kind of flywheel effect of the auto liquidations in the derivatives markets, kind of accelerating a price move one direction or another. That's now, apparently, perhaps the start of the action here was really more in a large spot purchase, perhaps by one individual, one investor, one fund. I think it sparks some head scratching. Why would you take $1.6 billion and push it into the spot market? You're going to get some slippage.
What kind of theories do you have in your mind? Why would someone
5% of 1.6 billion is a lot of money. So clearly somebody
well, they need to do it in a hurry.
Perhaps they needed to do it in a hurry. And I think, we were discussing this for this week's Crypto Long and Short newsletter. I was talking with Lawrence Lewitton on the First Mover program, who's on the First Mover program on Coindesk TV. We were discussing okay, maybe this is somebody who needed to move some capital out of Asia, for example. We had the Fantasia news, sort of indications of perhaps the Evergrande debt debacle spreading to other Chinese real estate firms. And so, you might see people looking to move capital very quickly. Perhaps Bitcoin is the avenue through which to do that. So that's one possible explanation. Certainly not as bullish as this was the time for somebody to make a big investment into Bitcoin. But
because it's Lawrence, there must have been a tether theory in there.
There's always a tether connection. I mean, look, could be somebody trying to move a bunch of tether as well, right? If you needed to get rid of a lot of tether, Bitcoin would be the logical place to do it. I think, certainly a move of that size into the spot market, typically the thing to do would be to handle it over an OTC desk, sort of dribble it out over a period of time so it wouldn't move the market. Seeing something like that happen, has to sort of invite these kind of questions. One thing I would say is if you do subscribe to that theory that it is sort of motivated by instability in China, I think it's another indicator that you see kind of macro factors starting to bear on the price of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that'll be the last narrative like that we see in the coming months.
Sure, it could be due to regulatory factors in China as well as in the United States, as we see the SEC talking more about crypto, though SEC Chair Gary Gensler did say that it's up to Congress to ban Bitcoin, suggesting that the SEC will not go there. But we're also seeing some bullish sentiment in the United States in terms of Bank of America opening up a crypto research desk and a potential ETF that could be approved in the United States. Gary Gensler, of course, has made signals that indicate that the SEC might be willing to approve a Bitcoin futures-based ETF. And so maybe in anticipation of that, we could see some more institutional buying. Lots of theories could be pushed out there. But I believe over the summer, even during the summer doldrums and such, it was the sentiment has always been quite bullish among the faithful Bitcoiners in the market.
I think there's clearly some support for the prices that were reached this morning, right? I think there is a lot of bullish sentiment in the market, and good reasons for optimism, some of which you cited. I think one thing to just keep an eye on is the fact that the world is a very uncertain place right now, not just in terms of what's going on in the debt markets in China, but what's going on in global supply chains, what's going on in geopolitics in the Middle East and Europe. I think there are a lot of places where you could see global events kind of creating turmoil, and the price of natural gas. Is another one. There are a lot of areas where you could see this kind of turmoil, and I think those are actually, in spite of the fact that Bitcoin has become this, has had this risk-on narrative. Some of those events could end up being positive for Bitcoin in the ways that you might have seen this morning.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring up this tweet from Genesis Global Trading's Joshua Lim saying that this is the real flippening that everyone should be focusing on, with a chart showing surging CME Bitcoin futures in yellow over Deribit Bitcoin futures in orange there. And
yeah, that's the basis, which is the difference between the price on the contract and the spot price. Yeah, and you're seeing sort of this like bullish surge on CME, more so than on any, and Deribit is the one highlighted here, but it's the same for any other derivatives exchange. Indicates a real, as you were saying earlier, Christine, like real bullish sentiment among the users of CME, which intend to be institutional type investors in the United States.
Right. So again, another catalyst for Bitcoin potentially. It's been discussed through quite a bit often. So where do you see Bitcoin heading from here? Can it sustain this psychological threshold, or do you not see, what is the new support and resistance?
I'm no technical analyst. I do think it's notable that we're still in the territory that the morning rally put us in. If that sort of we end up at a point where this seems to be the new normal, right? I think we were at a sort of 40,000 is 40 to 50,000 band. If we're now in a 50 to 60,000 band, that's kind of puts us into new territory. And we've certainly seen Bitcoin before run up quickly from that point, right? Once it kind of crosses a new threshold, the bulls can really take over. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that here, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily, bet the house on it.
Yeah. Well, Uptober, it's trending on Twitter. It seems to be real today. Thank you very much, Galen, for joining us.
Thanks, Christine.
Coindesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen. More coming up, more Bitcoin analysis with sentiment indicator firm Trade the Chain.
Coindesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. Coindesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at purpose chose the Coindesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
Coindesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. Bitcoin's latest rally has pushed its market capitalization back above $1 trillion, according to the Coindesk 20 data, a level not seen since May. Quantum Economics saying, quote, Bitcoin's move to a 5-month high comes as no surprise, as markets often move on momentum and sentiment, especially after periods where it has been trading for a while in a price range. The overall crypto market capitalization is at about $2.3 trillion. Meanwhile, Huobi, a popular exchange among Chinese traders, has lost market share to competitors Binance and OKX since it suspended trading in China following the country's crypto crackdown. Huobi's share of spot market trading volumes has dropped to about 16% from 24%, according to Keiko. Meanwhile, Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, has registered 3 of its firms in Ireland following global regulatory pressure. And finally, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler telling Congress on Tuesday that the agency has no plans to ban crypto. Asked if the SEC had any plans to follow China's lead in banning crypto in favor of a prospective central bank digital currency, Gensler said no, that would be up to Congress. He also reiterated a call for crypto exchanges to register with the SEC and concerns over stablecoins. Meanwhile, venture capital firm A16Z has weighed in with its own crypto policy proposals, including oversight for DAOs. Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin and more is Nick Mancini, research analyst at TradeTheChain.com. Hey, Nick, thanks for joining us. So you guys specialize in sentiment indicators. Have you been seeing this bullish sentiment in Bitcoin for a long time? And what do you believe is the catalyst behind today's surge?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Great to be here. I think the biggest thing, probably the biggest data point for sentiment that we noticed actually happened late last week when price was dipping into the 40K range for Bitcoin. Sentiment actually began to pick up in kind of large numbers, much larger than we typically see in a normal kind of support area. So that was the first signal, especially after a triple bottom, technically, to see sentiment rise at a really core support level. So that was shocking to us. And obviously we got a big boost kind of going into the weekend and coming into the week. And then I think the big kind of boost that happened recently that you just discussed with the previous guest was certainly due to the Fed and the SEC chairs both signaling that a ban for crypto and stablecoins would not be happening, at least under their purview, and it would take likely an act of Congress to make it happen. So great sentiment coupled with a big support kind of bounce, coupled with great kind of regulatory head or winds coming into the market, definitely equals higher Bitcoin prices and kind of inching closer to 60K, which was close to previous all-time highs.
Also, I mentioned that there is a lot of anticipation, if you will, of a pending or potentially pending Bitcoin ETF approval. Do you have any indicators on that and what the feeling is?
Certainly. So I think the biggest tell for us was when the spot ETF news came out, sentiment did not drop. So just recently, we got the news that I think 4 spot ETFs got pushed back, I think another few weeks or maybe a month or so. So generally, when that has happened, sentiment dips. We barely saw a blip on the radar for that because I think the market is slowly realizing that a catalyst is coming for an ETF announcement. And it does not seem, based on the signaling that we've gotten from our financial leaders, that a spot ETF would be approved. It does seem a lot more likely that a futures ETF will be approved, although this is still up in the air. So the fact that the sentiment around the futures ETF is high definitely knocked off the impact that a spot futures push had. So I think that's generally good news when we're seeing news that typically impacts sentiment and price, really not impacting it that much. That's definitely positive.
I wonder when Facebook went down along with Instagram and WhatsApp, that created a lot of stir in the crypto community in terms of building a case for the need for a decentralized web. And I wonder if you saw any sentiment indicators relevant to that developing story.
So I think the biggest sentiment indicator that I saw from that is Twitter volume increased pretty much almost instantaneously with the Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp kind of pause or shut down, whatever you want to call it. So Twitter is where a lot of sentiment activity happens. It's where a lot of alpha gets shared in the markets, whether you're talking about crypto or equities. So the fact that social media sites where a large swath of communication happens around the globe was cut off, we saw a lot of it move to Twitter, which actually helped our data, our metrics, and our community because we had more data, we had more attention, and generally heightened Twitter interaction or greater tweets or kind of positive sentiment in relation to those tweets. Generally, that adds kind of a compound effect on price action because the speed in which information gets spread is so fast on social media. So that was actually a bit of a boost for crypto, if you ask me, because more people were on the site where the most crypto chatter happens that actually translates into price action.
And that's interesting. One last question I want to ask you was Bitcoin now hitting $1 trillion. Hasn't seen that level since May. But the crypto market cap overall has passed that psychological $2 trillion threshold. It's been above $2 trillion since about October 1st and a couple times throughout the year. And I wonder, we are seeing greater searches for Bitcoin dominance. So I wonder if that shift has similarly been seen on your side, that people are interested in alts, Bitcoin dominance going down. Have you seen anything on that trend?
Yeah, so funny you mention that because actually every Friday I write research to the Trade the Chain community that primarily focuses on Bitcoin dominance in relation to both Ethereum dominance as well as others dominance, which are basically a basket of altcoins in the market. So 2 weeks ago, we predicted that Bitcoin dominance was going to rise, which generally signals strength in Bitcoin compared to other coins on the market. That happened. I believe Bitcoin dominance is up around 1.5, 2 percentage points in about a 14-day, 17-day period. And we've seen Ethereum and others dominance drop in that time period. So our analysis weeks ago was that buy Bitcoin because it looks like it's going to be the stronger asset moving forward. And now that we've got some ETF information that seems to be sprouting up, it does seem that Bitcoin is the stronger and most desired asset. So we're predicting that, potentially as Bitcoin continues to ink up maybe 1 percentage point higher, maybe 1.5 percentage points higher in terms of Bitcoin dominance, that's when things will start to kind of calm down. And then it'll be time to look at altcoins. So I actually put out some information today that said, start looking at the altcoins you want to buy, but definitely wait for a few weeks for Bitcoin to signal its next moves as we assess what dominance means for the impact on various price action. But currently, Bitcoin does look to be the strong stalwarts, and it doesn't seem to stop or want to stop, at least in the next week.
All right, Nick, thanks for the insights. Appreciate it. That was Nick Mancini, research analyst at TradeTheChain.com. And that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching Coindesk TV.